Hello there, and welcome back to this quiet corner of the cosmos. Tonight, we're letting the lights dim and the noise of the day fade completely. Imagine looking up at the vast, silent field of stars. Every glowing point, every gas cloud, every gentle spiral of a galaxy, it is all made of matter. The world you touch, the air you breathe, the chair you're resting in, all matter. But the universe is a place of profound balance, a place where for every particle of existence, there is a ghost twin, a shadow substance called antimatter. At the very beginning, in the first shimmering moments of time, matter and antimatter should have canceled each other out completely, leaving behind nothing but a beautiful, featureless sea of light. And yet, here we are. You are listening, I am speaking, and the stars are patiently shining. How did our little island of existence survive that cosmic collision? What gentle, tiny imbalance allowed the lights to come on and stay on? Tonight, we'll whisper the story of this subtle asymmetry, a quiet miracle that allowed you and everything you know to be here. If this calm exploration brings you a moment of stillness or helps ease your mind towards sleep, a soft like and a quiet, subscribe truly help others find this peace, one gentle journey at a time. For now, let your mind drift. The quiet universe is waiting, and we will begin together, unhurried and warm. You let yourself drift back to that impossible beginning, to the moment before moments, where there is not even darkness yet. Darkness needs a backdrop, silence needs a room to sit in, and here there is neither, no up or down, no near or far, not even a place for the idea of here to land. Just a kind of waiting that doesn't know it's waiting. Then, without warning and without sound, there is a change, a flicker, a tremor in the nothing. Not a blast, not a roar, but the gentlest shift from not at all to just barely. A ripple of pure possibility, like the first quiet heartbeat of a world that has not yet opened its eyes. From that almost nothing, energy pours out everywhere at once. It doesn't explode into space. It is space, spreading, unfolding, stretching itself into being. You can picture it like the skin of a balloon, invisible at first, then expanding in every direction, every point rushing away from every other point, not through an emptiness, but creating the stage as it moves. In that first instant, the newborn universe glows, energy thickens, cools just enough to gather. Like mist condensing into tiny droplets, it folds into the simplest building blocks, particles of light, tiny quanta of matter, little sparks that will someday become everything familiar and everything unimaginable. In that bright, young storm, pairs appear together, matter and its mirror, antimatter. They are twins, so perfectly matched that if you could hold one in each hand, you would see no difference at all, except for a quiet reversal, a flipped electric sign, positive where the other is negative, negative where the other is positive. Every electron is shadowed by a positron. Every proton has an opposite, an antiproton. Even the quarks at the hearts of future atoms have mirror partners, equal in mass, equal in behavior, opposite only in their charge. For a brief, exquisite moment, the universe is made of symmetry everywhere. These pairs flicker into being, dance together, and then touch. The instant they meet, they vanish, dissolving into flashes of pure light. Creation and erasure move in step, as if the cosmos is learning to breathe by exhaling and inhaling at the same time. If there were air, it would sparkle with these tiny deaths, each one a small kiss between opposites, each one leaving behind a photon that rushes away at the speed of light. The young universe flickers with this rhythm. Form, meet, disappear. Form, meet, disappear. Matter and antimatter are so perfectly balanced that, for a while, it seems nothing solid will ever last. Every attempt at existence is immediately undone. It is a ballroom of ghosts, a waltz where every turn leads back to emptiness. The temperature is beyond imagining, so hot that any delicate structure that tries to hold together is torn apart in an instant. The cosmos is a storm of energy, bright and crowded, but with no place yet for anything to stay. And yet, inside this perfection, a flaw appears. Not a crack you could point to, just the slightest tilt in the rules. Somewhere, in the deep fabric of those young physical laws, there is a tiny preference, a quiet unfairness. Perhaps it hides in the way certain particles decay, or in a subtle bias known to physicists as a violation of perfect symmetry. You don't need to follow the equations to feel what it means. The universe leans, just barely, toward matter. For every billion pairs of matter and antimatter that meet and erase one another, one extra particle of matter is left alone, 1 in a billion. A difference so small it sounds like a mistake in the counting, a rounding error in creation's first draft. But that lonely survivor keeps appearing, again and again. In the sea of vanishing twins, a spare particle remains unmatched. You drift through that storm of light and loss and begin to notice them, little survivors scattered like stray embers after a great fire. Each annihilation brightens the universe, filling it with more and more photons. Yet with every wave of destruction, the number of leftover matter particles quietly grows. Still tiny, still fragile, but slowly gaining the slightest advantage. It is strange and almost painful to watch. The same process that makes the cosmos glow with unimaginable brilliance is also erasing almost everything that could have been. Every collision is a future star unlit, a galaxy undone before it had a chance to gather. Creation's first act is, in a sense, to almost erase itself. The universe seems unsure, caught between being and not being, learning how to exist by nearly failing to. As time stretches, measured not in minutes but in cooling, the storm begins to soften. Space continues to expand, pulling particles farther apart. The collisions are still furious, but slowly they become less frequent. The sea of energy thins. Photons, once trapped, begin to roam more freely, bouncing less, traveling farther between encounters. The glow is still fierce, but beneath it, you can sense a change. The panic is easing into possibility. All the while, that tiny imbalance holds. For every billion that vanish, one remains. One extra footprint on the beach after the tide has washed almost everything away. It does not sound like much, but it is enough. That 1 in a billion difference will become every atom that ever joins another, every cloud of gas that will fall into a star, every star that will cook new elements, every planet, every ocean, every living cell that will one day wonder about its own origin. You drift among those survivors as they begin to find each other. Quarks join into protons and neutrons, small knots of stability in the cooling sea. These are the first hints that the universe is starting to keep what it creates. Gravity, gentle but patient, begins to tug on the scattered matter, encouraging it to gather, to form tiny clumps in the vastness. It is still far too hot for full atoms to settle into place, but the seeds have been planted. Around you, the light from all those vanished pairs continues to rush outward. It fills every corner of space, even as space keeps stretching. With time, that fierce glare will thin and cool, drifting down into a faint, uniform glow. The cosmic microwave background, the universe's oldest memory. Even now, on quiet nights, telescopes can still catch that whisper of light, a fossil echo from when everything was fire and almost nothing remained. It is humbling to realize that the atoms that will one day make up your body trace their story back to this moment. Every bit of you that has weight, that can touch and be touched, began as one of those rare survivors. When matter and antimatter met, they vanished completely, leaving behind only light. No trace of their original form remained, but the ones that escaped that fate carried the possibility of everything with them. The universe cools further, the frenzy of collisions slows, the brightness softens at the edges, and for the first time, there is room for something like silence. Not an absence, but a gentler kind of presence. In that calm, protons and neutrons begin to cling together, forming simple nuclei, mostly hydrogen, a bit of helium, and traces of other light elements. The first atoms are still a little way off. Electrons are too easily jostled free in this warm, glowing fog. But the path is clear. The chaos is no longer just random. It is beginning to favor patterns. You float through a small cloud of these particles, gathered by chance and by gravity's steady pull. They are not yet stars, not yet even close, just an overdensity in the vast sea. But compared to the emptiness around them, they are something. The universe has managed to hold on to a few grains of matter in an ocean of light. Creation has survived its own undoing. Somewhere inside the deep rules of reality, the perfect symmetry has already been broken. Physicists give it names: baryogenesis for the birth of more matter than antimatter, CP violation for the tiny tilt in the laws that allowed it. But beneath the language is a quiet, almost tender truth. If everything had been perfectly fair, nothing would be here. Perfect balance would have meant perfect erasure. A universe full of light, but with no stars to shine from, no planets to reflect that glow, no eyes to look up and notice. You might picture it like two candles spinning in opposite directions. If their flames matched perfectly, they would cancel one another, leaving only darkness. But let one flame flicker just slightly out of sync, and a trace of light remains. That small misalignment gives the room a glow. In the same way, the universe's tiniest unsteadiness, its nearly invisible leaning toward matter, is what allows anything at all to last. As the seconds of this early age slip by, only seconds, and yet full of everything to come, the antimatter dwindles. Collisions grow rarer. The storm of annihilation quiets into a softer, more spacious radiance. Darkness finally has somewhere to live, not as an enemy of light, but as the room around it. The surviving matter drifts outward, carried by the expanding fabric of space, still warm with memory, still haunted by the countless twins it lost. Every photon of light that now fills the cosmos, every shimmer from distant stars, is an echo of those first meetings between matter and antimatter. The glow that later generations will measure in their instruments is the after-image of that almost erasure. And you, listening here, are also part of that echo. The atoms that allow you to think, to feel, to sleep are proof that the universe did not cancel itself perfectly. It allowed, by the narrowest margin, a little more being than unbeing. In this young cosmos, the roar of creation is fading, and a softer stillness begins to settle. Gravity, quiet but persistent, starts its long, patient work. Hydrogen and helium nuclei catch wandering electrons and become whole atoms, at last simple, fragile things, but able to endure. From them, in time, clouds will gather, stars will ignite, galaxies will spiral, and somewhere on a small world, a mind will wonder how it all began. For a while, though, it feels as if nothing is happening in any way you would recognize. There are no days to pass, no clocks to tick, only a universe stretching and cooling after its narrow escape from perfect erasure. The atoms drift through a vast, dim calm, as if everything has taken a long, slow breath and is now resting at the end of the exhale, quiet, unhurried, and full of possibility, waiting for the next pattern to form. You linger in that stillness and let the thought settle. This almost did not happen. If the balance between matter and antimatter had been exactly perfect, every last particle would have met its twin and disappeared in a wash of light. There would be no stars to look up at, no chemistry to build rocks or rivers or cells, no minds to wonder how it all began, just radiation thinning forever into a smooth, silent emptiness. Perfection, you begin to see, is not a place where stories can live. It leaves no room for surprise, no space for anything to last. The universe needed a tiny tilt away from that perfect balance in order to breathe. Somewhere in those first moments, something in the clean symmetry of the rules went slightly wrong, and because of that, everything you know has a chance to exist. The light from those first annihilations is still here, a faint sea of ancient photons bathing all of space. You can't see it with your eyes, but it washes gently through you even now, the oldest light in the universe, still whispering across time. If you listen with your imagination, you can almost hear it as a soft, even hum, the echo of a time when almost everything was fire and almost nothing remained. As you drift through this quiet brightness, you sense the same pattern inside yourself. Creation and destruction are not enemies. They are two phases of the same long process. Every cell in your body is constantly breaking down old pieces and building new ones. You shed and renew, letting go to make room. The universe did the same, just on a scale so large it is hard to picture. It risked becoming nothing at all, and in that risk, it learned how to keep a little something back. The last fierce collisions fade. What remains is a thin, glowing mist of radiation and a rare dusting of survivors, those 1 in a billion particles of matter that never found a partner to erase them. They don't know anything of stars or galaxies. They simply drift, tiny and alone. But they carry the future in their persistence. You move closer, watching them glide through the soft afterglow. The universe that once burned hotter than any star has relaxed into a calmer warmth, expanding as it cools. Those leftover particles are like embers after a great fire, scattered and dim, but not extinguished. They glow with possibility. Left completely alone, they would wander forever, each one a small dot in an ever-thinning fog. But woven into the fabric of space is another quiet rule: gravity. Even now, it is there, patient and steady. Every bit of matter, no matter how small, tugs gently on every other bit. It is a soft invitation to gather, a whisper that says, "Come closer." The pull is unimaginably weak on such tiny scales, but the universe is in no hurry. It has all the time there will ever be. Slowly, over ages that stretch beyond any human sense of duration, the survivors begin to respond. Where there is just a little more matter than average, gravity makes that place slightly more attractive. More particles wander in. The clump grows heavier. Its pull strengthens. The process feeds itself, a quiet snowball of structure. You might wonder, floating here among these first lingering sparks, why there was any imbalance at all. Why should matter have won, even by the smallest margin? Physicists give this puzzle a name: the asymmetry between matter and antimatter. They have spent decades searching for its source, following trails of data through colliders and equations, trying to catch the universe in the act of favoring one side. One important clue hides in a subtle quirk of the laws themselves, something called CP violation. In gentle terms, it means the universe does not treat matter and antimatter as perfectly interchangeable. The cosmic mirror, flawless at first glance, has a tiny flaw in the glass. You picture yourself at the edge of a still pond at night. Above you, the stars shine. Below you, their reflections shimmer on the water's surface. At first, it looks perfect, sky and reflection matching point for point. But then, you notice it. One star's reflection is slightly out of place. Its light stretched just a little. A tremor runs through the image. The symmetry is broken, not dramatically, but enough that you can never quite see it as perfect again. Something like that happened on the level of particles. The rules that guide their behavior contain a microscopic bias, a tiny tilt that favors matter just a little. In those earliest instants, certain particles decayed in a way their antimatter partners did not exactly copy. One side leaned forward, the other leaned back. When the great wave of annihilation swept through, that minute head start was enough for matter to leave a faint trace behind. You follow the survivors as they scatter and gather again. The light around them softens into longer wavelengths as the universe expands. Collisions grow rarer, and for the first time, something like stability begins to appear. Protons and neutrons, clumps of quarks bound tightly together, have already formed. Now, as everything cools, they start to meet electrons and, here and there, manage to stay together. Hydrogen and helium atoms emerge, the simplest elements, the alphabet with which the universe will one day write stars and oceans and life. You may have seen helium lift a balloon toward the ceiling, or heard a voice turn high and thin when that gas is inhaled. That same element once floated here as newborn atoms, drifting through the young cosmos. The hydrogen that burns in the hearts of stars and bonds with oxygen to make the water you drink began here too, a quiet triumph over the chaos that came before. Each atom is a small victory over nothingness, a tiny declaration that something can last. From that modest surplus of matter, the universe begins to multiply its chances. Gravity keeps kneading the gas, pulling it into thicker and thinner regions. The thicker regions grow denser and warmer. They are not yet stars, but you can already feel the outline of what they will become. It is humbling to realize that your own body is built from these improbable leftovers. Every cell in you, every molecule you have ever breathed, is made of matter that survived that first storm. You are, in a very real sense, made of the rare stuff that did not vanish. You are the universe's persistence made conscious, an echo of its refusal to cancel itself out. If the balance had been perfect, there would be no atoms at all, no light shining from stars, no planets to orbit them, no chemistry to awaken into thought. Just a uniform bath of radiation, stretching and thinning, forever smooth, forever unchanged, clean, flawless, and utterly lifeless. Perfection erases. What endures is born from imbalance, from the willingness of a system to lean away from the easiest equilibrium. You can feel that same pattern in your own rhythms. Your heart does not beat like a metronome. It accelerates and slows, responds and recovers. Your breathing rises and falls, sometimes deep, sometimes shallow. You are never perfectly still, never perfectly symmetrical, and that unevenness is what keeps you alive. The universe's first tilt away from balance was like that, a tiny, essential irregularity. Because of it, the leftover matter clumps under gravity's hand. Clouds of gas form, invisible but real, like breath gathering on a cold window. Within those clouds, atoms collide and share energy, and over vast stretches of time, their crowded centers grow hotter and denser. One distant day, when enough matter has fallen in and the squeeze becomes intense, those centers will ignite, nuclear fire will blossom, turning hydrogen into helium and flooding space with new light. Those will be the first stars, the universe's second great illumination. They will sculpt their surroundings, forge heavier elements, and scatter them like seeds when they die. But all of that still lies ahead. For now, the cosmos is in its long, gentle childhood, a world of cooling light and forming atoms. You think of chance and how delicate this chain of events really is. One extra particle out of a billion. It sounds so small, and yet from that tiny remainder, everything unfolds. If you could pour 1 billion grains of sand into the sea and somehow save just one on the shore, that single grain would have to become dunes and deserts and beaches all at once. That is what the universe managed to do. It built a future out of imperfection. We may never know with certainty why matter gained that small advantage. Perhaps the bias was woven into the fabric of reality from the very beginning, a quiet note in the score before the symphony began. Perhaps it was a kind of cosmic coin toss that once landed on the side that allows stories. Whatever the reason, there is a strange comfort in knowing that your existence depends on a tiny, stubborn deviation that refused to disappear. You picture the remaining particles as the universe's first architects, drifting in fields of fading light. They do not know what they are building, yet everything depends on their simple tendency to cluster and hold. Their asymmetry is your inheritance. Their persistence is your pulse. The 1 in a billion that did not vanish now fills the heavens with stars and the earth with life. It hums through your blood and flickers behind your thoughts. As that awareness settles, another question rises gently, almost shyly, in its place. This broken symmetry that saved the universe, was it pure accident? Or was it written from the very start into the breath of creation itself? You feel yourself drawn toward that whisper, toward the moment when perfect balance fractured and the rules quietly chose a side. The universe around you is quiet now compared to its first blaze. The fire of annihilation has faded into a warm, lingering glow. The survivors, those rare particles of matter, float through expanding space like dust motes in a beam of light. Beneath the calm, the same faint bias still hums, the tiny preference that once tipped existence toward something instead of nothing at all. This is the story of broken symmetry, the hidden reason there is anything here to dream about. Somewhere in those first instants, when everything was still almost perfectly balanced, a small crack appeared in the mirror. From that crack, motion began, history began, and the universe discovered how to prefer survival over silence. Every star that will ever shine owes its life to that moment of imperfection, that tiny lean away from perfect balance. You rest with that thought for a while, noticing how your own pulse seems to follow the same uneven rhythm. Your heart does not beat with machine precision. It wavers and adjusts. That small unsteadiness is not a flaw. It is life, and it mirrors the cosmos itself. The universe began with the same kind of gentle misstep, the same broken symmetry, and from it, everything unfolded. Stars, worlds, stories, and this quiet moment where you lie, and remember that all of it exists because perfection slipped just a little. Without that ripple, the reflection would have stayed still. Without the imbalance, nothing could have started moving. A perfectly mirrored universe might have been beautiful in an abstract way, but there would be no one inside it to notice. While you drift in this realization, the cosmos keeps expanding. The invisible fields that once vibrated together in a single bright chorus begin to separate into different roles. What started as one blended song spreads into harmonies. Space grows larger. Time stretches. The fierce pressure of the early fire eases, and the remaining matter begins to feel less pushed and more free to gather. Somewhere in this great cooling, a new kind of transformation is waiting. The moment when energy will stop behaving like a wild storm and settle into the first stable patterns. The warmth is dimming, but not in a way that means loss. It is making room. You float through the thinning light. What was once a blaze filling every corner has softened, stretched by expansion into a gentle glow. The universe is still full of photons, but they have lost their sharp edge. They no longer burn, they bathe. The roar has become a murmur. In this long, soft exhale, something remarkable begins to happen. The fire starts to freeze. It sounds backwards, as if heat and cold have swapped identities. But as space expands, energy spreads out. The distance between particles grows. Collisions become less violent. Temperatures fall from unimaginable extremes to levels that are merely overwhelming. For the first time since the beginning, protons and neutrons that once flew apart the instant they touched can now hold on to each other. You watch them slow, just enough to clasp hands. The wild ocean of energy relaxes into calmer waves, and from within those waves, form appears. Until now, matter has been running, unable to stay in one shape for more than a heartbeat. Suddenly, it can pause, it can linger, it can begin to build. Protons catch neutrons and bind them with a force so strong it will outlast stars and galaxies. Small groups of 2 and 3 and 4 gather, holding tight through a bond that seems stubborn and sure. Hydrogen nuclei appear first, just a single proton each. Then helium, with 2 protons and 2 neutrons nestled together. A trace of lithium slips in as well. These are the first elements, simple and nearly silent. If you could listen closely, you might imagine the faintest series of clicks, as if each new nucleus is a tiny note in a slow melody. Later, people will give this period a name and write equations to describe it, but from where you float, it feels like tenderness. After so much tearing and burning, the universe finally learns how to hold. You drift among these newborn nuclei, feeling their delicate bonds hum with hidden warmth. Each proton is a survivor of annihilation. Each neutron is a record of balance reclaimed. Together, they are the seeds from which everything else will grow. Stars, worlds, oceans, the quiet rise and fall of your own breathing. The fire has not disappeared. It has simply changed its task. Instead of tearing things apart, it is helping to bake the first ingredients. You think of molten glass cooling slowly into a clear, solid shape. At high heat, it flows. As it cools, it takes on form. The universe is doing something similar, shaping itself from wild motion into stable structure. Right now, the entire cosmos is a forge hot enough to mold, cool enough to keep what it molds. Everywhere you look, hydrogen and helium dominate. Hydrogen will one day feed the first stars. Helium, made in these first minutes and then again inside stars, will fill both the hearts of suns and, one distant day, the floating balloons that bob above human celebrations. The elements are not just pieces of matter. They are the first letters in a language the universe is learning to speak. With just these few symbols, it will eventually spell out snowflakes and mountains, chlorophyll and blood, cities and lullabies. Even now, gravity is at work again. Its whisper has never stopped. It draws these newborn atoms, once they finally capture their electrons, into drifting clouds. At first, they are thin and spread out, too light to do much more than ripple. But over ages too long to feel, gravity gathers the gas into thicker, denser structures, like mist, slowly pooling in the lowest parts of a field. These clouds will take unthinkable stretches of time to grow heavy enough to ignite into starlight. For now, the universe is still mostly waiting, laying foundations not with sudden force, but with enduring patience. Around you, the clouds slowly cool. The light that fills the cosmos stretches to longer wavelengths as space expands, shifting from blazing white to deep red and then out beyond what human eyes can see. What remains is a faint, uniform background glow, the afterlight of the beginning. It will never completely vanish. Even billions of years later, it will still be passing gently through every room, every forest, every sleeping city, a soft radio whisper of the first fire. The furious brightness of creation has quieted into a gentle twilight. In this lull, electrons finally slow enough to be captured and held by the waiting nuclei. Atoms become whole. With their charges balanced and their bonds secure, something extraordinary happens. Light is finally free to travel, without constantly crashing into stray particles. The fog lifts. The cosmos becomes transparent. For the first time, light can cross vast distances without being trapped. The newborn universe glows in soft colors, then slowly dims as it expands. In time, that glow will fade into the nearly invisible background we can still detect. But right now, it is everywhere, a gentle, even radiance. In that calm, darkening brightness, the seeds of every future star rest quietly, rocked by the expansion, guided by gravity. You see now that creation is not a single event, but a long, layered unfolding. Energy did not disappear when the fire froze. It hid inside new forms, inside nuclei and atoms, inside the subtle motions of fields and particles. The warmth of those early moments still lives in every structure that will ever form. You carry some of that warmth yourself. The slight heat of your skin, the tiny electrical pulses in your brain, are distant descendants of that first blazing energy. You are not just surrounded by the universe, you are made of its endurance. As the atoms drift and gather, gravity keeps pulling. Here and there, clouds grow denser, darker, colder on the outside, but warmer at the core. In their hearts, something new will eventually happen. Under enough pressure, hydrogen will begin to fuse into helium, and in that process, light will be born again, not as a chaotic flash of annihilation, but as steady, shining stars. But that moment is still ahead. Right now, the universe rests in a kind of quiet anticipation, a vast ocean of hydrogen and helium, cool and patient, waiting for the next spark. Hidden within this calm, though, are faint shadows of an older story, traces of something that, by rights, should have been erased, completely antimatter. Long ago, it seemed to vanish in the great blaze of mutual destruction, lost in the light that filled everything. Yet as you drift through this quiet, you notice that its presence has not entirely disappeared. You can feel its echoes in the faint hum of high-energy particles that occasionally shoot through space, in bright flashes from active regions of galaxies, in brief, delicate dances of particles near the surfaces of stars. The shadow of the universe's lost half still lingers in small, recurring gestures. Far away, near the edge of a forming galaxy, a particle of antimatter is born once more. It appears as part of a pair, one matter, one antimatter, rising together from a burst of energy. Almost immediately, they meet and vanish again, leaving only a pulse of light that ripples outward. This happens constantly, everywhere. The universe never stopped making antimatter. It just learned to make it in tiny, fleeting amounts. On your own world, this quiet story continues above your head. Cosmic rays, fast travelers from distant corners of space, slam into the upper atmosphere. In the violence of those collisions, little pairs of matter and antimatter appear, live for a breath, and disappear in a sparkle of radiation. Even lightning can briefly create showers of positrons, the antimatter twins of electrons. They flash into being, find their partners, and are gone. All this is happening all the time, whether anyone notices or not. It is a reminder that creation and erasure are still entwined, that the old dance has not ended, only slowed. Your attention drifts far beyond your sky, into the blazing hearts of young galaxies, where matter falls toward giant black holes. In those crowded regions, gas swirls at nearly the speed of light. Out of this turmoil, narrow jets of radiation and particles shoot into space, and among them are particles of antimatter. These distant beacons, quasars, bright enough to outshine whole galaxies, are like furnaces where the universe briefly rebuilds fragments of its missing reflection. You cannot help but wonder whether there might be whole regions far beyond what we can see, where antimatter did not lose so completely. Entire galaxies, made not of protons and electrons, but of their mirror counterparts. They would look almost the same from far away, stars still shining, planets still orbiting, yet, at their core, every charge reversed. People have searched for signs of such mirrored worlds. If they were nearby, the boundary where their antimatter touched our matter would blaze with annihilation light, a horizon of brilliant gamma rays. But space is quiet. The sky does not show such scars. Still, the traces remain. Sensitive instruments sometimes catch hints of radiation that might come from tiny clumps of antimatter adrift in galaxy clusters. In great rings of magnets on Earth, scientists recreate minute amounts of it, coaxing anti-hydrogen atoms into existence and trapping them for a little while in magnetic fields. It is a careful act, beings made of matter, rebuilding the universe's reflection just long enough to look it in the eye. When they watch how antimatter falls, how it glows, how it responds to forces, they find that it behaves just like matter. And yet, on the grandest scales, antimatter always seems to lose. It is like watching two dancers perform the same steps with equal grace, yet one is always the first to leave the stage. You imagine one lonely antiproton circling inside a magnetic trap. Invisible lines of force hold it suspended so it does not touch the walls and vanish. It is fragile, out of place, but utterly real, a tiny envoy from the universe's forgotten half. When it finally escapes and meets a proton, they both disappear in a burst of light. Instead of feeling only loss, you sense a kind of completion. The story that began in the first instance finds a small echo here, condensed into a single point of radiance. Every such annihilation is in its own quiet way a moment of harmony. Matter and antimatter rejoin and return to the form they once shared. Pure energy. The universe, it seems, has never truly forgotten what it was like to be perfectly balanced. It just chose, very early on, to lean a little toward lasting things, toward stars and planets, and the quiet mystery of a mind lying awake, listening to the story of how it all began. That ancient balance hasn't vanished. It keeps resurfacing in flashes and whispers, scaled from the tiniest traps on Earth to the widest fields of space. Every burst of cosmic energy, every narrow jet of radiation from a galaxy's heart, every flash of lightning on a distant world is a faint echo of that first balance between opposites. The universe has never stopped replaying that opening theme. It hums through storms, through particles racing close to the speed of light, through quiet instruments listening under clear skies. Even your own body is touched by it in gentle, careful ways. In quiet rooms on Earth, doctors borrow that ancient mirror to look inside the living. In PET scans, they create tiny amounts of antimatter positrons, the twins of electrons, and let them meet their partners inside human tissue. For a fleeting moment, matter and antimatter find each other and vanish in a flicker of light. Detectors turn those flickers into images that show where blood flows and where cells are working hardest. Antimatter, once only a symbol of cosmic erasure, becomes a soft lantern held over beating hearts. The reflection has not vanished. It has simply changed its role. You lie still with this thought, feeling the night deepen around you. Existence, in a strange way, depends on what is no longer here. Antimatter is absence made visible, the memory of what the universe gave up so that anything could persist. Without its loss, there would be no atoms to join, no chemistry to unfold, no stars and no one to watch them. The fact that so much vanished is the reason anything remains. There's a quiet comfort in knowing that even what is destroyed can leave beauty behind. Light itself is a memory of what is gone. When matter and antimatter erased each other, they did not fall into emptiness. They became photons, tiny packets of energy that still wander through space, still paint the universe with their quiet glow. Here, destruction is not a hard ending. It is a change of form. You breathe softly and imagine a distant galaxy, its spiral arms slowly turning in the dark. Somewhere along one of those arms, near a young star, a particle of antimatter is born from a burst of energy. It flickers into being with its partner, shines for less than a heartbeat, and then dissolves back into light. A cosmic sigh, a reminder that everything ends, and yet from every ending something subtle remains. As that vision fades, you notice how steady your own awareness has been, following this long story through storms and stillness. You have stayed with the tale where so much simply vanished. In this small, quiet way, you and the cosmos share the same stubbornness, a wish to continue, to see what comes next. The glow of those brief annihilations dims into the larger dark, and ahead of you lies a deeper mystery, the light that never fully disappeared, the glow that has been traveling since almost the very beginning. You drift into the oldest light in existence. It is everywhere at once, stretching calmly in every direction, faint, too soft for your eyes to notice, yet always present. Over billions of years, this glow has cooled and dimmed, softened by expansion and time, but it has never gone out. This is the cosmic microwave background, the afterglow of the beginning. You might think of it as the universe's first photograph, a frozen whisper of the moment when fire relaxed into form. The light that fills all of space today was once the searing heat of creation itself. In those earliest seconds, light had no freedom. The universe was too dense, too crowded, too wild for photons to travel far. Every time they tried to move, they bounced off charged particles, scattering again and again like a voice echoing in a tiny, crowded room. The cosmos was opaque, not with smoke or dust, but with pure energy. Then came the cooling. Atoms formed and held together, charges balanced. For the first time, light could move more than a short step before being turned around. When the fire froze into form, when matter settled into stable atoms, everything changed. Photons, many of them born in annihilations between matter and antimatter, began a journey that has lasted almost 14 billion years. They have been traveling ever since. Every second, they pass through everything, through your body, through oceans and clouds, through mountain stone, and the empty spaces between galaxies. A thin, even bath of light, so faint most senses never notice it, yet so universal it links every atom in existence. If your eyes could see microwaves instead of visible colors, the night sky would never look dark again. It would shimmer gently with a soft, uniform glow, horizon to horizon, not from stars or galaxies, but from the very origin of everything. This is the light of ancient annihilation, transformed and softened by the breath of time. Each photon that touches you tonight traces its roots back to that early fire. In a quiet, literal sense, you are bathed in the echo of creation. The temperature of this glow now is just a little under 3 degrees above absolute zero, almost as cold as warmth can be, yet still not nothing. That tiny, persistent heat is the faint pulse of the cosmos itself, still breathing after all these ages. You let yourself sink into this sea of light, not as a visitor, but as part of it. The glow flows around and through you, remarkably smooth, yet not perfectly so. Here and there are minute ripples, tiny fluctuations where the radiation is just a touch warmer or cooler, only a part in 100,000, almost nothing. And yet those almost nothing differences are everything. These ripples are ancient fingerprints, stamped into the sky when the universe was young. In the slightly brighter patches, matter gathered more quickly. Gravity found a better grip there, pulling atoms into slowly growing clumps. In the slightly dimmer patches, matter was sparser, and expansion carried it farther away. From these invisible wrinkles, all structure arose. Every cluster of galaxies, every star that ever formed, every planet circling quietly in some distant orbit, and every chain of events that led to a thinking mind, all of it grew from these first delicate patterns in the glow. You can feel the peace of this light now. After fire and chaos, after the fierce storm of annihilation, the cosmic microwave background is almost tender. It's not just radiation. It's a lullaby written in the first language the universe ever spoke. Every photon carries a memory, a record of destruction and rebirth folded into its very existence. No matter where you look, the same soft whisper returns, uniform, patient, unhurried. This is how the universe remembers itself. Long after your own story has ended, this light will still shine. Even when familiar constellations have drifted into new shapes, the background glow will remain. On time scales far beyond that, when the last ordinary stars have dimmed and galaxies have slipped away from one another, the ancient radiation will still be there, stretched into longer and longer waves. The memory will thin, but it will not disappear. In the 1960 seconds, two radio engineers, Arno Penzias and Robert Wilson, were working with a large antenna, trying to measure faint signals from the sky. No matter what they did, they kept hearing a soft hiss from every direction, day and night. They cleaned the equipment, removed every obvious source of interference, even chased away the birds nesting in the dish. Still, the sound remained. It wasn't noise from Earth. It was the sky itself, the echo of the Big Bang, arriving as a whisper. If that whisper had a sound your ears could catch, it might feel like the softest possible note, so low and even that it blends into silence. Yet within that almost silence lies the imprint of everything that followed. The light of annihilation has become the light of existence, filling the dark with memory. It reminds you that destruction is never quite the end. When matter and antimatter vanished in those first moments, they did not fall into true nothingness. They became this glow light that still travels, still touches, still turns emptiness into somewhere. Even endings can shine. You close your eyes, and the cosmic afterglow becomes personal. This radiation is older than any star you will ever see. It existed before the sun, before the earth, before any ocean or forest or heartbeat. And yet, after all this time, it still finds its way to you, touching your skin as gently as starlight. It carries no words, but its presence is a message. You are made of what refused to fade. The glow grows thinner and softer with every passing second. Space expands, its waves stretch. But the pattern written into this light, the tiny wrinkles that seeded everything, will never change. They are etched into space-time itself, a permanent record of the universe's first deep breath. Lying here, it feels less like data and more like a lullaby, still playing under every later song. The same processes that shaped that glow also shaped the atoms in your bones. The photons that once blazed as pure fire now linger as faint warmth in the air around you, in the quiet energy that keeps your body alive. You take a slow, easy breath, and the sense of that glow softens into darkness again. Ahead, new light is waiting. This time, it will not come from annihilation, but from ignition. In the distance, hidden inside vast clouds of hydrogen, the first stars are beginning to gather themselves, like embers preparing to rise. Soon the universe will no longer shine only with the memory of its beginning. It will start to shine with its own new light, the light of the first stars awakening. You float in the calm that follows chaos, surrounded by cooled fire and softened radiance. The echoes of annihilation hum quietly all around. In that pause, a realization blooms gently. The reason anything exists at all, every star, every ocean, every wandering thought, is that the universe was slightly unfair at the start. One extra particle of matter for every billion that were destroyed. That tiny bias became everything that lasts. You move through the ancient light, thinking of what might have been. If the balance had been perfect, the universe would have erased itself in a single, brilliant flash. A moment of unimaginable brightness, and then nothing left to remember it. Perfection would have been beautiful, but over as quickly as it began. Instead, something tilted. A whisper of asymmetry slipped into the rules, and creation continued. The universe learned early what life would later repeat. Perfection cannot grow. Only imperfection can create. You imagine a scale hanging in the darkness just after the Big Bang. It's two pans perfectly balanced, matter on one side, antimatter on the other. For a brief moment, they weigh the same. Then, somewhere, a single extra grain falls into the matter side. The scale tips just a little. From that subtle lean, everything begins. Physicists give this mystery careful names. They talk about baryogenesis, the strange, brief moment when matter gained its slight advantage and CP violation, the tiny fracture in symmetry that let the universe lean away from perfect cancellation. They search for traces of this choice in the behavior of the smallest particles, hoping to catch the cosmos, admitting, just once, how it decided to continue. From where you drift, the essence feels gentler, simpler. Maybe the universe is not perfect on purpose. Maybe it needed a small bias, a soft tilt to leave room for motion, for novelty, for story. You think of light again, born whenever perfect opposites embrace and disappear. In that sense, light is the memory of fairness. Matter, the pieces that stayed, is the memory of unfairness. And both memories glow through everything that exists. The universe shines because of balance, but it lives because of imbalance. You drift through the cooling cosmos, held by the quiet understanding that you, too, are woven from that ancient tilt, not separate from it, not observing from outside. You are one more ripple in the long unfolding of an imperfect, creative universe that chose, against all simplicity, to keep going. Its asymmetry is your ancestry. Its persistence is your pulse. Gravity is gathering clouds of hydrogen now, pressing them inward until they begin to glow. The first stars are close to waking. Their light will not be the echo of a memory this time. It will be new, warm, and beginning-shaped. You slip closer to one of those ancient clouds, a vast, dim bloom drifting in the dark. From a distance, it seems like nothing at all, a shadow with no edges. But inside, atoms are slowly falling inward, their paths guided by gravity's patient tug. Each gentle collision steals a little of their wandering, a little of their freedom, and quietly turns it into warmth. At the center, the heat gathers like a thought, forming at the back of a resting mind, slow, steady, inevitable. For ages, nothing seems to change. The cloud contracts so slowly that even if you watched for 1,000,000 human years, it would feel almost still. But deep in the middle, the temperature rises. Pressure builds. Hydrogen atoms are packed so tightly that they can no longer move past each other without feeling the full strength of their mutual pull. The universe is preparing something it has never done before. It is about to learn how to shine from within. Then, at some quiet threshold, the balance tips. In the very heart of the cloud, a few hydrogen nuclei fuse together, forming helium. When they do, a burst of energy is released, not as a chaotic explosion, but as a steady outward push. One reaction triggers another, and then another, until a deep, sustained fire takes hold. The inward pull of gravity and the outward pressure of fusion find a delicate truce. A star is born. From the outside, you would see only a point of light where there was once only darkness. But from where you float, it feels more like a breath being taken. The star settles into its new life, burning quietly, turning mass into light, matter into warmth. What was once a cold, invisible cloud has become a lantern. Soon, more clouds follow. Across the young universe, gravity repeats this patient work. Here and there, hydrogen gathers, collapses, ignites. The darkness that seemed endless begins to puncture itself with stars. Alone at first, and then in groups. Those groups grow into clusters and swirls. tracing out the first outlines of galaxies. The universe that once glowed only with its fading memory now glows with fresh fire. Each of these first stars is huge compared to the sun you know. They burn fiercely and briefly, exhausting their fuel in only a few million years. In their cores, hydrogen fuses into helium, then heavier and heavier elements, carbon, oxygen, silicon, iron. Elements that did not exist in the calm after the Big Bang are now being forged in their hearts. You drift close to one such star, feeling the steady gale of light and particles flowing outward. It is both violent and serene, a balance between collapse and expansion that persists only as long as the fusion continues. Deep inside, the star quietly rewrites the universe's inventory. What was once almost entirely hydrogen and helium is now being transformed into the building blocks of planets and life. When these massive stars near the end of their brief lives, the balance they have held begins to fail. Iron builds up in their cores, and fusion can no longer provide enough outward pressure to resist gravity's pull. In a moment that is both sudden and prepared, the core collapses and the outer layers rebound in a titanic explosion. A supernova blooms, brighter than an entire galaxy for a short while. It might sound like destruction, but here, too, endings become beginnings. In the violence of the explosion, the star scatters its heavy elements into space, enriching the gas around it. Carbon and oxygen, calcium and iron, gold and iodine, all thrown outward like seeds. The space between stars, once thin and simple, becomes rich and varied. A second generation of clouds will form from this enriched gas, and when they collapse, they will not only build new stars, but also disks of dust and rock around them. From those disks, in time, planets will coalesce. Some will be barren and cold, some molten and hostile. A few will rest in just the right conditions for water to flow and chemistry to play. On one of those worlds, much later, beings will eventually look back and trace their own atoms to stars they never saw, stars that lived and died billions of years before their first breath. All of it from the first star igniting to the quiet turning of a small blue planet is rooted in that early imbalance between matter and antimatter. Without those extra particles, there would have been no hydrogen clouds, no gravity to gather them, no cores to ignite, no heavy elements to scatter. The fireworks of supernovas, the gentle glow of suns, the shimmer of starlight on ocean waves, all of it is the long, unfolding consequence of a tiny unfairness in the very beginning. You let that thought sink in as you float between these newborn galaxies. Their shapes are not yet graceful spirals. They are clumps and knots, bright regions woven together by dark strands of matter you cannot see. Between them, vast spaces open up, not empty, but thinner, like the quiet between heartbeats. The universe is learning to compose itself. Bright notes of starlight, separated by long pauses of dark. Far away, the background glow of the Big Bang still hums, but it is fainter now compared to the light of the first stars. The universe has moved from its childhood into a new kind of adolescence. It remembers its origin, but it is no longer defined only by it. It has begun to create new light, new structure, new ways of being bright. You notice something else, too. In regions where stars are densely packed, their combined radiation begins to change the space around them. Their light strips electrons from atoms in the intergalactic gas, turning it from neutral to ionized again. The universe, which once cooled into a transparent, gentle fog, is being relit from within. This age of reionization clears the last veils, making the cosmos more open, more transparent to light. Step by step, the universe is moving away from the conditions of its birth, yet the fingerprint of that early asymmetry remains. Every galaxy you see is a cluster of the original survivors. Every star is a new arrangement of old matter, long ago spared from annihilation. Every photon it emits joins the endless river of light that began with those first annihilations and never stopped flowing. You wander through time as easily as through space. Galaxies stretch and spin, colliding and merging, pulling streams of stars and gas into new shapes. Some grow massive and bright, others remain small and faint. In their centers, black holes form, invisible hearts that anchor swirling disks of light. Around their outer edges, quiet arms of stars curl like sleeping bodies. On the edges of one modest galaxy, in an unremarkable arm, a small star forms from enriched gas. It gathers a family of planets from the surrounding dust. One of those worlds cools into blue oceans and white clouds, its surface lit by a comfortable, steady sun. It is here, on this small planet, that the consequences of the universe's tiny unfairness become personal. The atoms in the rocks beneath your feet, in the water that circles through clouds and rivers, in your own body, all of them were forged in stars like the ones you have just visited. Hydrogen from the Big Bang mingled with carbon from ancient supernovas, nitrogen from dying suns, iron from collapsing cores. You are a mosaic of stellar memories, held together by the same laws that once allowed matter to survive. Sometimes, when people speak of antimatter, they picture it as something frightening, a kind of cosmic opposite that destroys what it touches. Lying here, following its story back to the beginning, you can see that it was never the villain. It was the equal twin that made light possible. Without antimatter, there would have been no annihilation glow, no cosmic microwave background, no first bath of radiation to guide the universe through its earliest moments. The real turning point was not the existence of antimatter, but the fact that matter was given just a little more room, enough to avoid complete erasure, enough to make stars and molecules and minds. Antimatter's apparent defeat is written into every beam of light that crosses the sky, every signal caught by a radio dish, every soft shimmer that slips through a bedroom window at night. You let your attention widen again, taking in the whole arc of the story. A universe born from pure energy, balanced almost perfectly between matter and antimatter. A brief time of miraculous symmetry, where every particle had its partner, every step its counterstep. Then a small tilt, 1 in a billion, that kept a few particles from finding their twins. Those survivors cooled into atoms. Atoms gathered into clouds. Clouds ignited into stars. Stars forged heavy elements and died, scattering their gifts into space. From those gifts came new stars, new planets, new possibilities. And now, here you are, a listener made of those same particles, lying in the dark, letting your mind drift along the same currents that once shaped galaxies. The story could have been so different. The scale could have tipped the other way. The universe might still have been filled with light, but without form, without stars, without anyone to be comforted by their glow. Instead, it chose, or happened, to be just uneven enough to last, just imperfect enough to continue. As you rest inside that thought, the first stars around you burn steadily on. Their light crosses the dark like slow, patient messages. Each photon carries both a memory and an invitation to remember how close everything came to not existing, and to recognize that, by simply being here, you are part of the universe's long, quiet decision to keep going. You take a deep breath. For a moment, you simply rest in that breath, in the quiet rise and fall that has carried you through every hour of your life. Air moves in, air moves out. Atoms slip in and out of your lungs, trading places with the world. You don't feel it as anything cosmic, but it is. The oxygen in that breath was forged in stars. The carbon in your blood was born in a supernova. The tiny dance of particles inside you still follows the same laws that once decided between everything and nothing. Somewhere in your chest, electrons drift in their quiet clouds around atomic nuclei. Somewhere close by, a positron flickers into being for a fraction of a moment, a product of some natural decay, a trace of a medical tracer, or a cosmic ray passing through. It meets an electron, and the two embrace and disappear into light. You never notice, you simply feel alive. But in that invisible instant, the universe has replayed its oldest story in miniature. You are both the matter that remained and the stage on which its opposite still appears and vanishes. A small, warm pocket of the cosmos where the beginning continues, softly and without drama. If you pull your attention farther back, you can feel how many layers are stacked inside this quiet moment. Billions of years ago, matter and antimatter filled space in equal measure. A tiny imbalance tipped the scales, leaving just enough matter behind for galaxies to form. In those galaxies, stars lit up and died, scattering heavy elements like confetti into space. Those elements gathered into planets. On one of those planets, chemistry grew so complex, it learned how to feel, how to ask questions, how to listen. Tonight, that long chain of events has led to you lying in the dark, wondering what became of the universe's missing half. You are not separate from that question, you are its result. The same asymmetry that favored matter over antimatter is written into every atom that makes up your body. Your bones, your pulse, your thoughts, all of them are what 1 in a billion looks like when it has had time to dream. You can almost imagine the universe thinking through you when you wonder why matter survived. It is matter itself wondering about its own luck. When you picture antimatter galaxies, mirror universes, lost reflections, you are not outside the story looking in. You are a chapter the universe is writing about itself. Somewhere high above you, another cosmic ray slips into the atmosphere. It smashes into a molecule of air, sending out a shower of fragments, some matter, some antimatter. The positrons live for a moment, then vanish again into photons. That light travels in all directions, most of it unnoticed, some of it eventually caught by a detector, a sensor, an instrument that turns it into data. From those numbers, someone will write down an equation. From that equation, someone else will build a picture. From that picture, the universe will know itself a little better. It's a gentle loop. The same processes that nearly erased everything now help reveal everything that remains. Even when you are perfectly still, this exchange is happening. Particles appear and disappear in the space around you. Atoms in your body change partners. Old cells die and new ones form. You are not a fixed thing but a flowing arrangement, a pattern held together by gravity and chemistry and time. The story of matter and antimatter is not confined to distant galaxies or underground colliders. It is woven through every second you exist. If you listen inside, past the noise of your thoughts, you might sense a simpler rhythm, things arising, things fading, things changing shape. A memory becomes a feeling becomes a breath becomes calm. Nothing is truly still, yet somehow there is peace. The universe seems to work this way everywhere. Pairs form and break, opposites meet and cancel, energy shifts from one form to another. What looks like destruction from one angle is just transformation from another. Matter and antimatter, life and death, beginnings and endings, they are all different names for the same quiet habit the universe has: to keep moving, to keep changing, to keep turning itself into something new. And in that light, the question, what stopped the universe from becoming pure antimatter, becomes more than a technical detail. It becomes a whisper about why anything can persist at all. Why there are stars instead of just light. Why there are worlds instead of just equations. Why there is you instead of an empty bed beneath a silent sky. A tiny imbalance did the work. One extra particle out of a billion gave gravity something to gather, gave time something to age, gave chemistry something to play with. That same imbalance now lets you feel tired at the end of a long day, lets you close your eyes and drift, lets you wonder about the origin of everything as sleep slowly folds around you. You might feel small in this story, but you are not an afterthought. You are exactly what a slightly uneven universe does when it has had nearly 14 billion years to unfold. You are matter that remembers annihilation and still chooses to rest. You are stardust that has learned how to be gentle with itself. Antimatter's absence is not a hole in the cosmos. It is the space that made room for you. Its vanished half-lives on as light, as warmth, as information, as the quiet glow of background radiation and the swift flash of a particle meeting its twin. That light has guided galaxies, fed stars, painted the sky, and now, in tiny doses, helps doctors see the outline of a human heart. The universe did not waste what it destroyed. It turned it into a way to see. As you lie here, you are surrounded by that ancient radiance and touched by its descendants. Starlight slips past your window. Radio waves hum through the air. The microwave afterglow of the Big Bang passes through your body as if you were made of mist. Somewhere, far beyond the horizon, a distant quasar sends out jets that include a few more particles of antimatter, another brief replay of the old balance. Somewhere else, in a quiet hospital room, a PET scan turns annihilation into an image that will ease someone's fear. All of it is the same story, told at different scales. Inside that story, you are allowed to rest. You do not have to solve the equations or trace every detail. It is enough to know that the universe is not a stranger. The laws that shape the first seconds shape your dreams. The bias that spared matter left enough room for you to feel the softness of a pillow, to hear the hush of night, to let your thoughts wander and finally grow thin. You take another slow, easy breath. The universe breathes with you in its own way, expanding, cooling, igniting, remembering. Matter and antimatter once stood face to face and nearly erased each other. A small tilt in their balance left behind a fragile surplus, and from that surplus came everything you have ever loved, everything you have ever lost, everything you are still hoping for. The question of where the antimatter went has led you from the first fire to this quiet moment. The answer is scattered across the sky, written in light, held in detectors, folded into your very cells. It went into photons. It went into memory. It went into making the universe just empty enough to grow structure and just full enough to feel warm. Most of all, it went into giving matter a chance to tell this story. And tonight, that story is cradling you, like a long, slow echo from the beginning, asking nothing more of you than to listen until your listening softens into sleep. If your eyes grow heavy now, that is all right. The universe will go on humming its gentle imbalance, turning absence into light, turning questions into comfort. The stars will keep burning. The ancient glow will keep traveling. The particles will keep appearing and vanishing. And you, small and miraculous in the middle of it all, are free to drift, to rest, to become for a while just another quiet part of the darkness that made every bright thing possible. The echo grows softer, but never silent. You float there, letting that realization settle. The universe is not a story that was told long ago and then forgotten. It is more like a song that keeps being replayed in different keys, each verse softer than the last, but still unmistakably the same melody. First as fire, then as atoms, then as stars, then as life. Each transformation lowers the volume, but deepens the meaning. Far ahead in time, long after your own life, long after your planet's seasons have finished their familiar cycles, the same pattern will continue. Stars will burn their fuel and dim. New stars will be born from the ashes of old ones, though not as many as before. Bit by bit, the universe will spend its brightness. Galaxies will drift farther apart as space stretches. The ancient background light will cool further, its gentle warmth spread so thin it will be almost impossible to notice. Yet even then, the echo of the beginning will remain folded into everything that still exists. In the orbits of lonely stars, circling quietly at the edges of faded galaxies. In the slow evaporation of black holes, releasing their last whispers of energy back into the dark. In the faint glimmer of scattered photons bouncing between dust grains in a thinning sea of space. The universe will keep remembering itself in smaller and smaller ways. It might sound sad, like a candle slowly burning down, but as you drift here, you can feel a different tone woven through it. The universe has never been interested in staying the same. From the first instant, change has been its only constant. Expansion, cooling, imbalance, annihilation, fusion, collapse, renewal, each phase giving rise to the next. The softening of the first light is not a failure. It is the natural exhale after a long and luminous inhale. You think again of pairs and opposites, of how everything you have seen is born from their meeting, matter and antimatter, light and darkness, motion and stillness, birth and decay. Even memory itself lives between presence and absence. To remember is to feel something that is no longer here, as if it still were. The cosmic background, those ancient photons, are the universe's way of remembering its own childhood. You too, remember in the same way. When you think back to a moment from your past, nothing physical from that day is here with you. And yet, with a single thought, you can feel the texture of a voice, the color of a room, the way a certain evening tasted. The body that lived that moment is not the same one that lies here now. Atoms have come and gone. Cells have died and been replaced, but the echo remains. In that sense, your mind is a smaller version of the cosmos. It carries forward faint imprints of events that no longer exist. It turns what is gone into warmth and meaning. The universe does this with light and structure. You do it with feelings and stories. Both kinds of memory are fragile, yet powerful enough to shape what comes next. You drift past another cluster of galaxies, their combined gravity bending the path of light around them. Distant rays curve and twist, their straight lines turned into arcs. To an observer far away, the galaxies act like a lens, magnifying the glow behind them. Through this bending of light, astronomers on a small planet will one day map the invisible matter that holds galaxies together. They will see, in those subtle distortions, the fingerprints of a substance they cannot touch or see directly. Dark matter, another quiet partner in the cosmic dance. It, too, is a kind of echo, not of annihilation this time, but of some earlier state of the universe that left behind extra mass with almost no light at all. It shapes galaxies without shining. It gathers stars without ever becoming one. The universe seems full of these hidden companions, antimatter that vanished but left its light, dark matter that remains but hides its glow, dark energy stretching space itself in a way you can feel only through its effects. You realize that so much of reality is known only by what it does, not by what it looks like. You have never seen antimatter galaxies, yet you know of antimatter from the light it leaves when it meets matter. You have never held a piece of dark matter, yet you see its pull in the motions of stars. You cannot hear the cosmic background with your ears, yet you feel its presence in the temperature of empty space. Your own life is like this as well. The things that shape you most deeply are not always visible. A kindness that changed your day, a loss that never fully left, a quiet decision you made when no one was watching. They have no color, no shape in the sky, yet they bend the path of your life as surely as gravity bends light. You float on, letting this parallel sink in. The physics that governs the universe is not cold or distant. It is the same pattern that lets you be moved by memories, that makes you reach out for connection, that allows you to find meaning in the briefest of moments. From the outside, a human life looks small against the backdrop of galaxies, but from the inside, it feels vast, filled with entire universes of thought and feeling. Perhaps that is another way the cosmos explores itself, by creating beings who can experience depth instead of only distance. Space can expand outward forever, but consciousness allows the universe to expand inward too, into nuance, into reflection, into wonder. You remember the 1 in a billion imbalance that started all this. It was such a tiny tilt, and yet it made room for everything you have just drifted through, for stars and storms, for colliders and hospital rooms, for questions and quiet nights. That small unfairness gave matter a chance to persist long enough to become complex, to become aware, to ask why. And now, here you are, the question and the answer in the same place. You are what happened when matter survived. You are what the universe did with its extra fraction. You are the continuation of a choice written into the laws of reality long before there were atoms, planets, or names for anything at all. You think of antimatter one last time, not as an enemy, but as a partner that bowed out so that this version of the universe could exist. Its disappearance was not a waste. It became light. That light became warmth. That warmth became stars. Those stars became the elements. Those elements became you. Antimatter's story is written into every layer of your being, even if you never see a single antiparticle flash by. In a very real way, you are how the universe keeps its promise to itself. The promise that what is destroyed will not be meaningless, that what is lost will return in another form, that what fades will leave an imprint on what follows. The early cosmos learned this through annihilations and echoes. You learn it through changes in your own life, through goodbyes and new beginnings, through the way your heart breaks and heals and keeps going. All of it runs on the same quiet principle. Nothing is ever exactly balanced, and that slight lean is what allows time to move, stories to unfold, and meaning to appear. You notice your thoughts growing slower now, like galaxies seen from very far away. Each one drifts past at an easy pace. The sharp edges of questions blur into softer shapes. You no longer feel the need to hold the whole universe in your mind at once. It is enough to know that you are inside it, and that it is inside you, and that both are still unfolding. The hum of the cosmic background continues, whether you listen or not. The stars still burn, whether your eyes are open or closed. Antimatter still flickers into being and vanishes, whether anyone sees it. The universe keeps breathing between opposites, inhaling and exhaling across billions of years. You are allowed, in this small moment, to simply rest within that breath. If you could zoom out far enough to see the entire sweep of space and time at once, you would see that your life is a thin thread woven through a vast tapestry. But you would also see that without that thread, the pattern would not be exactly the same. The picture would be missing a color, a shade, a note in the music. The universe made room for that note. When it chose imbalance over perfection, it made room for you. So as you lie here, feeling the weight of blankets, the softness of the dark, the steady beat in your chest, you can let the story of antimatter settle into a simple, gentle truth. You are here because the universe refused to cancel itself out, because it let something remain, because it allowed a little more being than unbeing. That extra bit became everything, and tonight it has become you, breathing quietly in the dark, while the ancient light of lost twins and vanished pairs passes through the room like a memory too soft to disturb your sleep. You do not have to hold on to any of this if you are tired. The story will stay, written into the stars and into the quiet warmth of your own body. You can let your thoughts loosen, let the edges of the cosmos blur, let the hum of existence fade into the background. The universe will keep its balance. You can finally let go and rest in the small, miraculous fact that you exist at all. You take another slow breath and let that thought linger, like a small light held cupped between your hands. Time keeps moving, whether you watch it or not. Somewhere a star takes shape, somewhere another one fades, somewhere a child is born, somewhere an elder closes their eyes. The universe uses the same rule for all of it: forward. You think about the small arrow of time written into your own days, the way mornings never run backward into nights, the way a word once spoken cannot quite be unsaid, only answered with new words, the way a kindness given cannot be taken back, only added to, passed along in other hands. Your life, like the universe, is drawn as a line, not a circle. You cross each moment once, and exactly once, and that is what makes each one matter. Memories gather behind you, like constellations, some bright, some dim, some you have almost forgotten, until a scent or a sound brings them back. The future, by contrast, is a dark sky where no stars have been lit yet. Entropy ensures that this difference remains. The stars behind are fixed. The ones ahead are still waiting to be born. You live right at the edge between the two, carrying the past as warmth and stepping into the future as possibility. From the outside, that rule of only forward can seem harsh. Everything changes, everything ends. But from the inside, where you live, it feels different. That forward flow is what lets you grow, learn, and become someone you weren't before. If you could move backward, perfectly undoing every change, you would also undo every lesson, every soft scar, every moment that made you more yourself. The arrow of time is the reason you are not the same person you were years ago, or even this morning. It is the reason a single night can feel like a turning point. Entropy keeps spreading energy outward, mixing what was once neatly separated. Ice melts, batteries drain, stars cool, but folded within that great, gentle, drifting apart are small pockets where things come together for a while. A star forming from gas, a planet forming from dust, a mind forming from atoms that have never met in that pattern before. You are one of these gatherings, a fleeting constellation of particles held in a brief arrangement that has never existed and will never exist again in exactly the same way. That temporary order is not a mistake, and it is not a rebellion against entropy. It is one of the ways entropy unfolds. To create more ways for energy to disperse, the universe sometimes builds intricate structures, stars, cells, ecosystems, friendships. They live for a while, redirecting flows of energy, making warmth, making movement, making thought, and then they loosen and return their pieces back to the wider world. Like a wave rising out of the sea, traveling, curling, and then slipping quietly back into the water that made it. You, too, are a wave. You rise for a time, carry experience across the surface of existence, and then one day you will fall back into the deep. That might sound frightening when said too quickly, but here, in the quiet, you can feel a softer truth inside it. Nothing of you is wasted. The atoms will go on. The energy will go on. The ripples of every kindness, every word, every touch will go on in the people and places you have met. Time takes forms away, but it does not erase their impact. You glance, in your mind, toward the earliest universe again. There, entropy was low, everything tightly packed, smooth and simple. Now, billions of years later, entropy is higher, but so is richness. The universe has become more complex even as it has become more spread out. Galaxies, stars, planets, life, thoughts, late-night questions. It is not a straight trade of order for chaos. It is a long, branching journey in which simplicity makes complexity possible, and complexity eventually returns to simplicity in new ways. You exist halfway along that path, in a tiny moment when the cosmos is bright with stars and full of chemistry. You feel entropy as time, as change, as the way memories pile up behind you while possibilities open ahead. If you could freeze everything in perfect order, nothing would hurt, but nothing would ever move. No one would ever meet, or heal, or forgive. Your heart would never break, but it would never open wider either. So the universe chooses motion. It lets the marbles roll, lets the cards shuffle, lets the atoms wander. In that wandering, new stories appear. You are one of them. Your life is not separate from cosmic history. It is one chapter in the same arrow of time that began when the first light broke free. You think of the little asymmetry that saved matter at the beginning, and you see now that time carries its own asymmetry as well. The past is written, the future is blank. You can walk through the story in only one direction, but within that limit, there is astonishing freedom. You cannot change the fact that the universe expands, or that stars burn their fuel, or that entropy increases, but you can choose how to live inside that flow. how to be kind within a world that is always passing, how to notice beauty in things that do not last. You breathe in, and for a second, the air is cooler, more ordered. You breathe out, and warmth leaves you, energy spreading into the room. Even lying still, you participate in the great drift from order to disorder. Yet inside that small exchange, thoughts bloom, feelings soften, understanding deepens. Entropy is not your enemy. It is the background that makes every moment precious. You realize that the universe did not just fine-tune the forces that hold atoms together and stars in place. It also fine-tuned the conditions that make experience possible. A universe with no arrow of time would be frozen. A universe with no imbalance would be empty. A universe with no entropy would have no stories. This one has all three: direction, asymmetry, and the slow, generous spreading of energy that gives everything room to happen. You let your awareness widen again, as if your mind could drift across the whole of space-time at once. You see the early, hot universe, small, dense, nearly perfect. You see it expand, cool, form galaxies, ignite stars. You see planets drift into stable orbits, oceans gather in blue basins, clouds form and rain fall. You see forests rise and fall, species appear and vanish, civilizations flare and fade like sparks. All of it connected by the same arrow of time, the same rise of entropy, the same preference for forward. And within one of those sparks, on a small world circling an ordinary star, you see yourself, not as a separate thing, but as a place where all these patterns meet. Matter from dead stars, laws from the first second, light from annihilated twins, time's arrow and entropy's spread, cosmic imbalance and delicate balance. All of them have converged here for a little while in the shape of your life. You do not need to hold on to the scale of it. It is enough to know that you belong to it. Your thoughts begin to slow, like embers settling into ash. The questions that felt sharp a little while ago now feel gentle at the edges. You do not need every answer tonight. The universe has been unfolding its answers for billions of years and will keep going long after you sleep. You are allowed to simply feel the comfort of being a small, honest part of that unfolding. So you lie there, listening to your own breathing, feeling the weight of the blanket, the softness of the dark. Somewhere far above, gamma rays streak through space, remnants of ancient collisions. Somewhere deep below, particles flicker in the rock. Somewhere inside you, a few atoms reshuffle themselves, releasing a whisper of energy. The same laws guide all of it. The universe is still doing what it has always done, turning imbalance into light, turning order into experience, turning time into story. And tonight, that story is holding you, gently, like a tide that asks nothing more than that you float. If your eyes drift closed now, you will not be leaving the cosmos behind. You will be sinking more deeply into it. The hum of ancient radiation will go on. The stars will keep shining. Entropy will keep increasing in its patient way. Matter and the faint, forgotten traces of antimatter will continue their long exchange. And your resting mind will become, for a while, another quiet place where the universe can simply be. You take one last, easy breath, feeling it arrive and depart, forward, always forward, just as it has been since the first moment when the marbles began to roll, when matter survived annihilation and time chose a direction. You do not need to follow it any farther tonight. You have already come all the way from the first fire to the stillness of this room. The universe will remember the rest. All you have to do now is sleep. You hover at that turning point for a while, where gravity's gathering and dark energies spreading were almost perfectly matched. It feels a little like standing in the doorway between two seasons. Behind you is the age of clustering and fire. Ahead, the age of drifting and thinning. All the stories you know, every star you've ever seen, live in that gentle middle ground. From here, you watch the balance slowly lean. Galaxies keep forming for a while, stars keep being born. But in the vast stretches between the great filaments of matter, the dark grows more spacious. Distances lengthen. Light travels longer and arrives fainter. Dark energy is patient. It doesn't rush. It simply continues, the same in every direction, quietly outvoting gravity on the grandest scales. You float farther into the future, letting billions of years pass like slow, sleepy breaths. The familiar galaxies you once saw crowded together in the cosmic web now stand farther apart, like distant lanterns receding into fog. The Milky Way and Andromeda have already met and merged into a single broad spiral, a new home of stars. But beyond this island of light, the rest of the universe has slipped away. The farther a galaxy is, the faster it recedes. Eventually, most will vanish beyond a horizon set not by distance, but by expansion. Their light, stretched and softened by the swelling of space, will fade into wavelengths too long to detect. To any beings who might exist in that far future, the sky will seem almost empty. Their own galaxy will be all they can see. The wider cosmos will be hidden, not by walls, but by time. It sounds lonely, and in a way it is. The great conversation between galaxies will quiet. Collisions will become rare, then almost non-existent. New star formation will slow as gas is used up or scattered. One by one, the bright young stars will age, turning into red giants, white dwarfs, cold embers. The universe will trade brilliance for endurance. Yet, even this long dimming is a kind of balance. In the beginning, everything was crowded, hot, and loud. In the farthest future, everything will be spread out, cool, and quiet. Between those two extremes lies every chance for life, for curiosity, for late-night thoughts like the ones you're having now. Your entire existence takes place in a brief, golden dusk between two enormous midnights. You drift through that imagined future and then gently back toward your own time, like a tide that has gone out as far as it can and now slides home across the sand. Dark energy is still here, still stretching space, but it has not yet pulled everything out of view. The sky above you is still full of galaxies, their light just faint enough to invite wonder, just bright enough to reveal where you are. You begin to see dark energy not as an enemy of connection, but as part of the rhythm that made connection possible. If expansion had never accelerated, the universe might have collapsed again before stars like the sun could finish their work. If expansion had dominated too early, matter would never have had time to gather into galaxies at all. Instead, there was a pause, a balance, a window wide enough for worlds to form and for someone on one of those worlds to lie awake and ask why. That someone is you. The same dark energy, now pulling galaxies apart, also floats through your body as empty space between atoms. The same vacuum energy that shapes the destiny of clusters hums silently in the distance between the particles that make up your cells. You are not just in the universe's expansion, you are threaded through with it. Every quiet pocket of nothing inside you carries the same potential as the void between the stars. You take a slow breath and picture that. Universes within, pauses, beginnings, inside gaps, it becomes hard to say where you end and everything else begins. The atoms that make up your lungs were made in ancient stars. The space between those atoms holds the same dark energy that propels galaxies apart. The photons that bounce off your skin tonight began as fire long ago, shaped by gravity, stretched by expansion, and finally folded gently into this room. When people talk about dark energy, they often focus on how it will empty the sky. But lying here, you notice something else. Even now, while the universe is still young enough to be crowded with light, dark energy has already given you a gift. It has set a direction to cosmic time that allows you to live in a chapter where both memory and discovery are possible. You can look back with instruments and see the afterglow of the Big Bang. You can look forward with telescopes and watch galaxies drift. You are alive at a moment when the universe tells nearly its whole story at once. One day, that will no longer be true. Future astronomers, if they exist, may never know the universe was once so vast and bright. The background light will be too faint. The distant galaxies will be gone from view. They will see only their single island of stars and might think that is all there ever was. In a strange way, you know more about the universe tonight than those future beings will, even if their technology outshines yours. You live close enough to the beginning to still see it glow. That closeness is part of your rarity. You are not just made of improbable matter, you are made in an improbable era. A brief interval when dark energy has begun its work but has not yet finished it, when light from the earliest stars still arrives and the farthest galaxies have not yet slipped away. You are, simply by existing now, a bridge between what the universe was and what it is becoming. You let that sink in and feel no weight from it, only gentleness. The universe is not asking you to fix its fate or solve its deepest equations. It is only inviting you to notice that your life is woven from the same threads as its vastest mysteries. Matter and antimatter, gravity and expansion, order and entropy, light and dark energy, these are not distant concepts. They are the conditions that quietly shaped the possibility of you. All the imbalances that could have erased the cosmos, all the balances that could have failed, somehow landed in a narrow range where stars form, planets cool, and nervous systems feel. Dark energy, once only a whisper in equations, has grown into the dominant term in the cosmic story. And yet, here you are, resting on a tiny world, listening. You picture the universe as a great breath. In the first moments, it drew itself in tightly hot, dense, almost perfectly uniform. Then it began to exhale, expanding, cooling, making room. Gravity gathered some of that breath back into stars and galaxies, shaping eddies and swirls in the flow. Now dark energy guides the exhale onward, widening the spaces between. Somewhere in the middle of that breath, in a small curl of cosmic airflow, sits your life. You are a brief, delicate pattern in that motion, a swirl that will someday disperse, but while you are here, you can feel the breeze that moves through everything. In the warmth of your skin, in the ticking of clocks, in the shifting colors of the sky at dusk, you can sense the same expansion that carries galaxies apart. It does not make you smaller. It makes your presence part of something immeasurably large. You take another easy breath and notice how naturally your body follows the rhythm. In, out, gather, release. The universe does the same on a scale so vast it can be hard to imagine. Dark energy is simply one more part of that rhythm, the long, slow outward phase. You happen to exist during the middle of this exhale, when the air is still warm from the first fire and full of the dust of exploded stars. One day, far beyond anything you need to worry about, the exhale will stretch so far that most lights go out and only a thin, cold whisper of motion remains. But that does not erase the breath that came before. It will have already made stars and worlds and oceans and you. It will have already sung its song in countless forms. You find comfort in that. The universe does not cling to its brightness. It lets it flow. In the same way, you do not have to cling to every moment. You can let them pass through you, knowing they go somewhere into memory, into others, into the quiet shaping of who you are. Outside, expansion continues. Between galaxies, dark energy widens the spaces. Inside, your lungs rise and fall. Both are expressions of the same simple truth. Existence is movement. Nothing stays, and because nothing stays, everything can be. You are here for a small part of that motion, awake enough to notice, peaceful enough to rest within it. The universe keeps unfolding, 1 second at a time. And tonight, it has brought you to this one. That is enough. If your thoughts are softer now, if the questions feel less sharp and more like distant stars, you can let them drift. The arrow of time will go on pointing forward. Dark energy will go on stretching space. Light will go on traveling outward, carrying memories you will never have to bear alone. You can let the vastness take care of itself. All that's left for you in this moment is to lie quietly in the dark, carried by the same laws that lift galaxies apart, and keep your heart beating and allow yourself to sink a little deeper into the gentle, expanding silence that holds everything you've ever known. Slowly, patiently, dark energy keeps leaning on the fabric of everything, pulling even that ancient balance apart. It isn't a tearing, not really. It's more like a long diffusion, the way a drop of ink fades as it spreads through water until you can't tell where it ends and the water begins. Fire becomes too rare to kindle, collisions too scarce to build anything new. The universe grows too thin for sparks, too quiet for rebirth. And yet, even there, a kind of beauty remains. You let your mind drift far ahead, past all familiar ages. Trillions upon trillions of years in the future, when the clocks of galaxies have almost all run down, one by one, the stars have gone out. Some ended in grand explosions, seeding space with heavy elements. Others dwindled slowly into white embers and then into black, cinders cooling in the dark. The great islands of galaxies, once knitted together like a cosmic web, have drifted so far apart that their light can no longer cross the widening gulf between them. The sky, once thick with starlight, has grown sparse, then empty. The brilliant canvas that carried the dreams of countless beings slowly fades to a deep, unbroken darkness. And still the fabric stretches. Space continues to expand, gently but relentlessly. The last surviving photons, those tireless travelers, are drawn out into longer and longer waves, their energy thinning until they are barely more than a suggestion. Eventually, they stretch so far that they can no longer stir anything, like ripples flattened into a perfect calm. Atoms that once burned in the hearts of suns or flowed in rivers of blood come to rest in near-perfect stillness. Entropy reaches its quiet summit. There are no more gradients to flow down, no more fuel to burn, no more difference left to drive change. The universe has finished its long, measured climb toward equilibrium. It sounds like an ending, but not a violent one. It is not a crash or a blaze, but a slow, endless exhale. The cosmos dissolves into calm, the way a wave disappears back into the sea that carried it. No edge, no shatter, just a gradual smoothing until only stillness remains. After so much motion, so much creation and collapse, it feels less like tragedy and more like rest. You pause with that thought and feel something loosen inside you. You remember that in its earliest moments, the universe expanded faster than light, a brief, astonishing inflation that stretched the newborn cosmos in a heartbeat. Perhaps what you see now is the echo of that first act, slowed down to a whisper, but never truly stopped. Dark energy becomes, in this light, not just a strange force, but a continuation of the first breath. The beginning and the ending are two ends of one motion, one inhale and one impossibly long exhale. If the universe began in motion, perhaps it can only finish by following that motion all the way out until stillness is no longer a point, but everywhere. You drift further into that imagined future, beyond even the age of ordinary stars. The galaxies whose light you know now are only memories, their glow stretched beyond sight long before. You feel a tenderness toward them nonetheless, like fondness for old stories whose details are fading, but whose feeling remains. Each galaxy, each star, was a brief flare of meaning in the dark, a spark of structure carried in time. Soon, even the memory of their light will be too faint to trace. And yet there is peace in that vision too. Because if this final darkness is the universe's last breath, then your entire existence is inside that breath, part of its long, slow outflow. All that ever was remains within it, just more diffuse. Nothing falls outside. Every particle, every photon, every pattern is still there, stretched thin, but never erased. Even the light that seems to fade is only being shared more widely, becoming less a beam and more a background, less somewhere and more everywhere. You close your eyes for a moment, and the silence you imagine does not feel empty. It feels vast. It feels complete. You begin to see that expansion is not the refusal of connection, but its extension. The atoms in your body were once pressed unimaginably close to atoms now belonging to stars you will never see. At the beginning, everything shared one small space. Later, it shared one great history. Dark energy can widen the distances, but it cannot undo that shared origin. It stretches the story. It doesn't cancel it. The kinship remains, written into the geometry of space and the composition of every particle. You drift one last time through the widening dark, feeling space itself lengthen beneath you like a tide that will never turn. It is odd to think of a tide that only ever flows out, but that is what the universe is becoming, an ocean whose waves have spent themselves and now rest in a level calm. Perhaps, hidden in that vast stillness, there is some future transformation too slow or subtle for you to sense. Perhaps there are depths you cannot guess, but that belongs to epochs beyond imagining. For now, it is enough to float, small and infinite at once, within what you can see. Black holes remain for a long while. In this dim landscape, the last great engines of gravity. They sit like deep wells in the fabric, swallowing what drifts too near, gathering the echoes of stars and gas and dust. They, too, are part of the universe's memory, holding patterns that once were vivid and bright, but even they are not eternal. Over spans of time so long they feel almost meaningless, they leak their own energy away as a faint, cool radiation. Bit by bit, they shrink. Bit by bit, they fade. Eventually, each black hole evaporates in a final, delicate sigh of photons. No explosion, no drama, just a last, quiet return of concentrated gravity into thin light. When the very last of them releases its final, tired photon, the cosmos enters an even deeper night. No stars, no galaxies, no glowing remnants, only a sparse mist of particles and a few scattered quanta of energy spread across volumes of space so large that each one might as well be alone. This is the Dark Era, a universe without visible fire, without places, without time in any sense you would recognize. Nothing much happens here. There are no more great transitions, no more new patterns. Just persistence, just endurance, just the quiet. It may seem like nothing, but in another sense, it is everything. All the striving, all the asymmetry, all the structure and story have led here, not to a void where nothing counts, but to a completion where nothing more is needed. From the first blinding seconds to this final smoothness, every change has been one part of the same movement, energy, finding every way it can to spread, to transform, to become memory. You realize that you are included in that story. You were formed from the fire, arranged by gravity, refined by time. The warmth in your chest is descended from the same heat that once filled the entire universe. The sparks in your thoughts are made possible by energy that has been flowing since that first instant. Even when the universe cools beyond recognition, what you once were does not vanish. It becomes part of that hidden background, part of the faint hum that still threads through the dark. You picture the final horizon again, a universe without stars, but not without presence. Space is still there, smooth and calm, extending farther than any distance you can hold in your mind. The laws of physics, or whatever they have become in that far future, still hold true. Energy is not destroyed. It has only been transformed so completely that it no longer gathers into bright islands or sharp events. Every moment that ever happened is still etched into space-time, a frozen relief in the invisible fabric. From one perspective, nothing is happening anymore. From another, everything that ever happened is still quietly there. Perhaps this is what eternity really means. Not endless noise or unending light, but an unbroken continuity. No piece missing, no memory truly erased. Just a story that has reached its final page and now lies open, complete. For as long as existence itself endures, you are part of that continuity. You always will be. As you let this idea settle, the imagined darkness around you feels less like emptiness and more like a library with its lights turned low. You can't read the pages, but you know they exist. Inside that quiet are the traces of every life, every question, every moment of joy, and every breath of grief. Each atomic vibration, each photon's journey, each fleeting thought preserved as part of the whole. The universe doesn't need to be bright to be full. It only needs to be. You take a slow breath in your own time, here, far from that distant future, and feel how much is held in it. You have traveled in your mind from the first fire to the final stillness, from fields of pure energy to the soft beat in your chest. You've watched matter and antimatter meet and vanish into light. You've watched asymmetry save existence. You've watched stars ignite and die, watched space itself stretch and thin. And after all that, the thought that rises is simple. Nothing was wasted. Every blaze, every collapse, every imbalance, every quiet moment contributed to the calm that waits at the end. The universe was never a tale of loss, though loss was part of it. It was always a tale of transformation, of energy becoming structure, structure becoming experience, Experience dissolving back into the fabric while leaving an imprint behind. You open your inner eyes to the present, again, to this small room, this quiet, this particular moment in all of time. Even without looking, you can feel the memory of light inside you. The atoms in your bones were formed in ancient stars. The iron in your blood once sat in the core of a massive sun. Calcium in your teeth, carbon in your skin, oxygen in your lungs, all of them have lived other lives before this one. The universe is not something far away. It is the material of your body, the rhythm of your breath, the warmth in your hands. You are not standing outside watching it end. You have never been outside it at all. You are the universe, arranged for a little while in a shape that can wonder about itself. Even in its quietest ages, it will still speak in that way, not in roars of radiation or crashes of matter, but in the simple fact that what has been cannot be undone. Somewhere in the deep structure of space-time, your existence is written as surely as the light of the first stars and the fading of the last. The cosmos, through you, through countless others, has already whispered the words it will carry into its final stillness. I am still here. You let that sentence echo softly inside, not loud, not defiant, just true. You have walked in imagination to the edge of eternity and back, and you find yourself where you began, a conscious pattern of matter in a quiet room, wrapped in the same laws that shaped galaxies. Somewhere outside, stars are still burning. Somewhere overhead, the ancient microwave glow is still passing through the sky. Somewhere deep in your chest, atoms from long-dead suns are still humming. The universe is wide, and it is also as close as your next heartbeat. If your thoughts are heavy now, if your eyelids feel slow, you don't need to do anything about it. The cosmos has carried itself forward for nearly 14 billion years, without effort, without hurry. It will keep going. You are allowed to rest within it. You've followed the story from nothing to everything and back to something quieter than both. You've seen that even annihilation leaves light behind, that even endings become part of a larger calm. You've seen that you are not separate from this, but shaped by it. So you lie there, small and vast at the same time, and let the universe hold you the way it holds stars and dark energy, and the last faint photons in its endless, gentle fabric. No more questions are needed. No more answers are urgent. The long exhale continues all around you, and for now, in this brief and precious moment, you can simply breathe with it and drift into its deep, peaceful quiet.